everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, thanks for stopping by. If you enjoy the content you find on my channel, please consider subscribing, like, and share my videos, and follow me on social media. I will leave all the links in the description box below my video. So today, as you can tell from the title, we are going to be making tomato herb marmalade, and it is from the Ball Blue Book of Canning and Preserving. If you've been around my channel very long, last year we made tomato herb jam, which you've heard me sing the praises of over and over again. I love having that on my shelf. It is a staple that I can't run out of. I absolutely love it. But this year I wanted to do something a little bit different, and this recipe was pointed out to me by a subscriber who's become a friend, and we were talking about using fresh herbs, which is kind of the thing I've been on for the last week or so, using up the fresh herbs in our herb gardens. And she pointed this recipe out to me, so I thought I would give it a try and bring you all along, and we would see how it compares to the tomato jam. This does have a different flavor profile, and it is different. It is a marmalade. It has a lot more sugar to it, and it also takes some pectin, but you're using some fresh herbs. It calls for a tablespoon of minced fresh oregano and a tablespoon of minced fresh basil. Now you could use dried if you want. You can substitute dried. I don't think I would do any more than a teaspoon of each if you want to sub out the fresh herbs for dried. And I think that if you wanted to change up the flavor profile, it should be fine to use any herb that you want. So, but we're gonna follow the recipe. We're gonna use the oregano and the basil. It also has a little bit of garlic and some lemon in it. So we're gonna give that a go today. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to blanch our tomatoes. And for those of you who are not familiar, we're just going to dunk our tomatoes in boiling water, let them boil for about 60 seconds or so. The skins will bust open and they'll start to curl, and then we're gonna put them in some ice water, let them cool for a minute, and then we're going to peel the skins off, core them, and seed them. So that's where we're gonna start, and we're gonna get going with that, and then we're gonna add the other delicious things to this and make up our jam, and then our marmalade, and then we will also be canning it up. The recipe does say that it takes 1.5 pounds approximately of tomatoes. You can use whatever kind of tomato that you like. It does not specify. I love using Romas for things like this, so that's what I'm going to use. Romas are meatier than a lot of other tomatoes. I did consult some other tomato marmalade recipes. Some people suggested using early girl or beefsteak. That's fine. Those are both kind of meatier, regular tomatoes, so it's up to you. The Ball book does say that it takes 3 to 5 medium tomatoes to get the 1.5 pounds. So let's get started blanching our tomatoes. Okay guys, here we go. Our water is boiling, so we are ready to start blanching. We're just gonna put a couple of tomatoes in our water at a time, 2 or 3 at a time. And let them hang out for about 60 seconds. And you can see when they're ready, the skin does split. So it's ready to be peeled. So just pull it out and stick it in your ice water. Those go a little bit more. Just let it cool enough that you can handle it. And then we're going to pull the skin off. See, the skin comes right off. And then we're going to core it. And seed it. And then we're just going to give it a rough chop into 1/4 to 1/2 inch pieces. Another method for getting rid of the seeds as opposed to just squeezing it is you can cut it in half and then just dig out the seeds with your finger. Okay, that was pretty easy, right? We've got our tomatoes all peeled and chopped. It should measure 3 cups. The recipe says you should have 3 cups when you're done. So if you didn't end up with 3 cups with your 1.5 pound tomatoes, go ahead and continue blanching tomatoes until you get 3 cups of chopped tomatoes. So what I did is I went ahead and emptied the pan that I was using, and now we need to simmer our tomatoes for 10 minutes. We're going to go ahead and put those in our pan. We're going to turn up our heat. Now, the bulk canning book does not specify if you should simmer them covered or uncovered. I have right at 3 cups and I don't want to lose any of that, so I'm going to simmer mine covered for the 10 minutes that they're wanting you to cook them. And then when we come back, we're going to add our other yummy goodness. We need the lemon, we need the fresh chopped herbs, and get my pectin and my sugar ready. So I'll clean all this up, get all that ready, and then when we come back, we'll go ahead and make our marmalade. Okay guys, my tomatoes have been simmering for 10 minutes. Now the instructions in the ball book say to remeasure your tomatoes to make sure you have the 3 cups. We left the lid on, so I don't feel the need to remeasure, and I just think that that's an unnecessary step if you're simmering with the lid on. But my tomatoes are nice and soft now, so their instructions at this point are to go ahead and add your lemon slivers, they're calling it. What I did is I used my lemon zester. It gets nice big slivers of lemon peel or citrus peel, and then I just chopped those a little bit more so that they weren't quite so big. So you want 2 teaspoons of your lemon peel, lemon slivers, whatever you want to call it. You need 1 clove of minced garlic. And then we need 1 tablespoon of our oregano, fresh oregano, and 1 tablespoon of the fresh minced basil. You want to mince them pretty finely. Give that a stir in, and then we are also going to add 1/4 cup of lemon juice. Their instructions are you can use either fresh or bottled. This is an exception to the rule, guys. Most of the time in canning, you do need to use bottled lemon juice, but this recipe does make allowance for fresh, so I went ahead and used fresh. I zested the lemon, so I might as well just use the juice. You want 1/4 cup of juice, and then we need 6 tablespoons of classic pectin. We're going to stir that in, and we're going to bring that to a boil. I'm going to turn up my heat a little bit. We want to bring this up to a boil. Once it reaches a boil, we are going to add 4.5 cups of sugar, and we're going to bring that up to a boil that cannot be stirred down, and boil it hard for 1 minute, which is typical of any jam, jelly, marmalade. That's a typical instruction. So when you get to this point, you want to make sure that you have your canner ready and that your jars are ready, because once we boil this hard for a minute, we're going to be ready for canning things up. So make sure you have all of those things ready to go. I have learned the hard way with jams and jellies that when you're bringing things up to this boil so that you can boil hard for a minute, it's important to have it on high heat. If you do a medium-high heat, it takes forever, and then you end up with this overcooked jam, jelly, or marmalade. So just go ahead and crank it up to high. This is at a boil now, so I can go ahead and add my 4.5 cups of sugar. And at this point, we want to stir constantly. Okay, I brought you a little closer so you can see what's going on in my pot. Beautiful color. You got the flecks of the green from the fresh herbs, and then that beautiful red color from your tomatoes. Okay guys, here we are. We are at a boil that cannot be stirred down. It is not, as I'm stirring it, you can still see that it's clearly boiling, so we need to time 1 minute, and then we'll be ready for canning. Okay guys, we are ready to rock and roll with canning. Modern canning guidelines state as long as you are processing for 10 minutes or more, you do not need to pre-sterilize jars or lids. So we are going to be processing for 10 minutes, so we're good. I just thoroughly washed and rinsed my jars. They are being kept hot in my sink full of hot water. I washed my lids and set them aside. So we are ready to go. We are going to be canning in 1/2 pint jars, the 8-ounce jelly jars. You can also use the 4-ounce jelly jars for this. If you are prepping for Christmas gifts, this would make a great gift, and the 4-ounce jars are wonderful for that. So you can do the 8-ounce or the 4-ounce jelly jars, and we are looking for a 1/4 inch headspace. So let's get a couple of jars going. I do have my rack in my canner. I have 3 quarts of simmering water. I'm going to be steam canning. You can steam can or you can water bath can this recipe. If you are water bath canning, you want your canner half full of simmering water. Let's go ahead. I think you can see pretty well. We're going to ladle our marmalade in our jars to 1/4 inch headspace. Then use a chopstick, plastic knife, or your debubbling tool to release any air bubbles. If your headspace changes, make sure you add more to your jar if you need to. And then I use a paper towel dipped in white vinegar to clean the rims of my jar. I want to make sure they're nice and clean and nothing interferes with our seal. And then we're going to center our lid and add our rings fingertip tight. And add our jars to our canner. Okay, I got 4 full-size 8-ounce jars and then 1 4-ounce baby guy jar and a little bit left over just to show you what it's like, and I'm going to taste it, of course. So now we are ready to go ahead and put our lid on our canner. We're going to crank up our heat to high. Like I said, I'm steam canning, so I just want to bring mine up to temperature. I have a gauge on my canner that tells me when to start timing. If you are water bath canning, you want to bring your canner up to a full boil, and once it's at a full boil, you can start your processing time. Then just make sure that the water covers your jars by at least 1 inch if you are water bath canning. The other thing I wanted to mention too is sometimes with jams and jellies there will be a foam on top after you cook it. I didn't have that, so I didn't need to skim anything. If you do have some foam on top, you can go ahead and skim it before you ladle it in your jar. So we're gonna go ahead and bring our canner up to temperature, and then we will start our processing time. Okay, we are all up to temperature, so we are ready to start timing. So we need 10 minutes on our timer. You also want to make sure that you adjust your heat. We don't want it vigorously boiling too hard. So you're gonna slowly turn it down. We don't want huge temperature fluctuations in our canner, so just slowly turn it down just so that it maintains being in the green zone if you have the dial gauge. If you are water bath canning, you want to make sure you maintain a rolling boil, so you just need enough heat to maintain that. We don't want it to be vigorously boiling so hard that it wants to boil the lid off. Also, for those of you concerned about your steam canner, you should have a steady stream of steam 4 to 6 inches long coming out of your steam vents, and your water in the bottom of your canner should be boiling. So for those of you with those concerns, those are the things to look for. So we're going to process for 10 minutes and I will bring you back. Okay, our processing time is up, so we're going to turn off our heat. You can go ahead and remove the lid at this point. You just want to make sure you lift it away from you so you don't get burned or give yourself a steam facial accidentally. If you are water bath canning, you need to let your jars sit for 5 minutes in the canner before you remove them. With steam canning, it is not necessary to wait the 5 minutes, and we can go ahead and pull ours out of our canner. It is so pretty, you guys. Just beautiful. A close-up of it. See how pretty that is? Just that beautiful red color and the flecks of the green herbs. Just beautiful. Love it. And it is very tasty. I obviously tasted it. This is what it looks like. Obviously it hasn't set up all the way yet, but that's what it looks like out of the jar. It's set up pretty good, actually. But you can see the tomatoes suspended and all that delicious, yummy sugar. It is very sweet. Now, just for reference, this is the tomato jam, and I do have a video on this. The herb tomato jam, or tomato herb jam, I guess, is out of the all-new Ball Book of Canning. And it is very different. So I think that they both have their place in your pantry. This has, you can see the texture of it. Grab another spoon. It's very different. It's not nearly as sweet. It has a different flavor profile in that you're using herbs de Provence. It also has some white wine. It also has balsamic vinegar in it. So it is definitely, this tomato jam recipe is definitely more on the savory side. The tomato marmalade, the tomato herb marmalade we did has it has a different flavor profile altogether. It's much sweeter. It has the basil and oregano as opposed to the herbs de Provence. So very different. They both have their place and they are both absolutely delicious. So I will link my video to the tomato herb jam that I did last year so that you can give that a peek if you're interested. I'll link it for you with an iCard, and I will also put it in the description box because it is delicious as well. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget, allow your jars to sit undisturbed for 12 to 24 hours. After that time, you can check your seals, remove the bands, check your seals, wash your jars thoroughly, label them, and store them in a cool, dark, dry place. Please consider subscribing, like and share my videos, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.